Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for joining us on another episode of today's Electrical Estimating. I'm your co-host, Chris Trommer. And as always, I'm joined by my other co-host, Sal Huerta.
Hello, everyone.
So I came across an interesting article on LinkedIn the other day. It has something to do we talked about years ago. But this article, and I wish I had a better memory. I can't recall exactly who it was from, but I can remember the content that it was saying that on some projects nowadays, material costs is making up 60 to 70% of the cost for the overall project. And sort of took me back because I remember years ago talking with you where it was flip-flopped and labor was 60 to 70% when it came to project costs. Are they far off? Am I misremembering conversations? What do you got on this?
So that mindset that you're talking about did start a number of years ago as products started becoming more and more expensive. And then lately today, especially relevant today, uh, pricing has gone crazy. And so when you look at the cost of a product today, go up as much as 25%, the next week. So
Mhm,
for looking at the labor part of it now, that stays static.
mhm.
But yet the unknown part of it is this pricing module or what's happening today is that pricing is become so unclear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. Unclear or fluctuating or, you know, because we started seeing this when we had COVID. So, 4 years ago, when the prices of copper surging and then prices of products going up and down because manufacturing wasn't open or delivery times were and inventory was down. I feel like we're sort of getting to that similar point, but then we also had inflation that was in there and products pricing went up and then, but nothing's really gone down. It seems like we have a lot of little ups and downs and then it goes up for some reason or another. And then it sort of stays there. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen anything even in our day-to-day lives that have gone down to pre-COVID times. So I feel like, Mark does a great job today in talking about that balance. Like, as we were saying, labor is pretty tied in, especially for, his force that he's using, and he'll talk about that. But the fluctuation in pricing, that's really seeing large increases.
Yeah, in the old days, you would think of it that here's a quoted price, and then I'll go to my distributor and then negotiate the price down afterwards once I get the job. Nowadays, you're quoting a price and then you're hoping that it doesn't get bumped 10% or 15% or 20%. And then you're having to figure out a price that goes up, not down. So that's what's becoming difficult for contractors these days.
Yeah, I could just imagine because I mean, we talked with Nick a few weeks back, and I mean, they were working on one project that, and this is probably going with so many others that by the time you do your estimate to the time the project begins can be almost a year to 2 years, between pre-construction conversations to, all this stuff to go through. So then for 2 years, you're looking at pricing, you're updating your estimate, you finally think you got it. Well, that project might not, you get awarded, might not start for another 6 months to a year. And now you're buying your product. And like you said, now that price is going up even more, and you're getting hit with that. So what are you going to do? I mean, I sort of feel bad for these guys at this point. Their job's already stressful enough, like Nick mentioned, just trying to figure out this puzzle of specs and blueprints and, engineers and GCs and all these people coming together. And now you're finally putting this bid together. And next thing you know, you can't nail down pricing at all.
No, absolutely correct. And like we talked about, it's going to get a little more dicier as time goes on. So these estimators have to, now really sharpen their pencils a lot more to see what's going to go on and maybe even project a little bit, what they think the job could be, like you said, in 6 months.
Yeah. Now, do you think in the future we're going to start seeing where product costs could take up 80% of the project and the labor's 20%. And I'm not saying like they're decreasing the labor budget, but budgets are getting so much bigger to include the increase in product costs that, the overall cost now is going dramatically to the purchasing of products, and labor, which used to be the larger cost on projects, is now gone down as much because, products value is so much higher.
So you and I have talked about this in the past, where um, labor was always the part that was always the one that cost the most. But
Yeah.
like I said, we've talked about this in the past that labor is now static. You know what you're going to be charged for. You know what's going to cost, but the unknown, which is now pricing, is the one that's going to take up the most now. So material pricing is going to be the one that's going to take up more of the job than the labor part has.
Do you feel that's one reason we're seeing a lot of new, or I guess I'm seeing it too, labor saving initiatives from manufacturers coming out? Like they're really pushing the labor savings on their products or the labor savings value of the product because the price of the product's higher, but they're trying to show how they can decrease the amount of labor. So yeah, I might be paying a little bit more for this product, but I'm going to save on my labor, so it sort of evens out. Do you think that's one of the reasons we're seeing a big push? Because I know I see marketing videos and text and stuff coming through of labor saving products, weekly.
And you hope that's the case, because anything that you can do to help save time on the job is what's important. So yes,
Mhm.
an item that saves you 10%, take that 10% times 1,000 pieces, that's a pretty big deal. So yes, absolutely, you want to see more of these.
So you sort of save that labor, which is already at a sort of a set number, and you can take that savings on your labor, decrease it maybe a little bit because now, like you said, 10% across the 1,000 products, and then turn around and put that back towards the cost of what the product did cost you because now you're saving on your labor side. You can sort of decrease that product side. That's sort
Absolutely.
of what you're thinking? All right. Well, I think we've taken up enough time. We probably want to hear what Mark has to say. So, first time visitors, please subscribe. We're going to be dropping new episodes almost every single Friday. I think we got a bunch more left for season two. And, appreciate you guys taking time to listen. Sal, as always, great seeing you. Great talking
Good
with you.
talking to you.
And take care, everybody. When you're creating these estimates, how do you balance the cost associated with labor versus materials and products?
I probably need more definition of what you mean by that, because for us, there isn't a balance. It's based on the project itself, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's interesting that material is actually getting closer and closer to equal with the labor costs now.
Okay.
But there isn't a vision in my mind when I start a job that we're going to focus on material versus labor, because it's a whole product.
Yep.
Uh, so I'm not exactly sure I'm answering your question correctly.
We've talked to people before that they've taken the labor and they've sort of gotten their number for what their labor is and then what their cost is for their products. And then they sort of say, well, this is our combined number. And then they look where they could actually adjust the cost in between to meet a budget or meet a particular number that they're going to. With our conversations with them in the past, it was, hey, I could decrease my labor cost a little bit more because I know my cost for product isn't going to be able to be moved that much. So I can come in with a particular number. So I guess that's sort of where the question was coming. If you have a budget you're trying to be at, when you're looking at it, are you willing to allocate more of, hey, we can work on this labor number a little bit more, or the product number? I guess that's where that was coming from.
Yeah, I think, it's more concrete to work on the material pricing as far as large vendor quotes, commodities purchases. But the flip side of that is, if I did the estimate 3 weeks ago, my copper price is wrong right now.
Mhm.
So the risk on material rate currently has just gone crazy. So we have to be very careful of that and understand that there may not be a substantial buyout on the material side. So we have to be rock solid on our labor, knowing that there really isn't a buyout scenario where I could be more competitive.
So that would sort of be focus on the labor, make sure that's solid, just because the fluctuations with product costs over time from where you estimate to where it could fluctuate a lot more.
100%. And we're involved in a lot of pre-construction now.
Mhm.
because people understand our capabilities. So I'll get a set of drawings that are early design development drawings, and they'll ask us to budget it. So a lot of times, a large estimate or a large project could be 18 months old before it's actually awarded. So
Yep.
we have to be very careful that we're right on top of our material pricing so that we don't get a big hit at the end of the day.
So from a guy that's new to this space, and that's one of the things with our podcast, we have Sal's decades of experience within, net pricer and estimating environment, and me being new to this. So that's why a lot of the questions I'm coming forwards with them are with labor. You don't see those fluctuations, do you? Over an 18-month period, are they as wild as swings as sometimes that we've seen in the past with product cost, or is it sort of stay middle of the road, maybe slight increase over time?
Yeah, again, we're a union contractor, so I have a pretty good feel for where our rates are going to go from year to year. So the biggest challenge we have in New York, particularly, is that we have a lot of unemployment. So there's a work share program. So I really rely on my superintendents to keep the best men in the company and make sure the guys that are on the job are the guys right for the job. So that's my risk with labor.
Okay.
So really, the material is where I see the potential for more fluctuation.
Got it. So risk with labor is more the right people at the right time, not as much what the cost of labor fluctuating.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I don't have a concrete answer on from year to year is insurance costs. The cost
Okay.
of general liability is through the roof right now, and from year to year, there's less people that want to write insurance. Certainly, less people that want to write it in New York. So I have to have that in the back of my mind all the time. Is my total labor cost going to go up 3 to 5% only because my insurance premiums went up 3 to 5%? So that's the one thing I don't have a firm grasp on because no one does.